Stop, I'll buy her." My voice cut through the jeering crowd like a gunshot. The auctioneer's gavel froze mid-swing. Every eye in that dusty Arizona yard turned to me, some shocked, most disgusted. But I wasn't looking at them. I was staring at the young Apache woman on the block, her wrists bound, chin raised in defiance despite the blood on her torn dress. That spiral bird tattoo on her shoulder. God almighty, I'd seen that mark before. 20 years ago, when a Chiricahua chief with that same tattoo pulled me from a burning wagon and gave me water when I should have died. Now here was his blood, maybe his daughter being sold like cattle. The crowd wanted a show, they'd get one. Welcome to my story. Watch till the end and tell me where you're watching from so I know how far this tale has traveled. The auction yard reeked of sweat tobacco and something worse, desperation mixed with cruelty. Gallows Yard, they called it. Though no one had swung from these posts in years. Now they sold different kinds of death here. $500, I repeated louder this time. The morning sun beat down mercilessly on the packed dirt, casting sharp shadows from the wooden platform where she stood. Slade Cutter, the gang boss running this sick show, spat tobacco juice near my boots. Well, well, Rafe Callahan himself didn't figure you for the type. His scarred face split into a yellow-toothed grin. She's a fighter, this one. Bit two of my boys trying to bring her in. Good for her, I thought. The woman, barely more than 20 by my guess, kept her dark eyes fixed on the horizon. That tattoo, intricate spirals forming a bird in flight, seemed to pulse in the harsh light. The same design that haunted my dreams carved into the arm of the man who'd saved my life. 600, someone shouted from the back. Wyatt Drummond, the bank agent. Of course he'd be here. 700, I countered immediately. Sheriff Abel Crowder pushed through the crowd, his badge catching the sun. This is all legal. Callahan got the papers right here. She was caught stealing horses. Stealing back what was already hers, more like, muttered someone near me. Old man Ortiz from the livery, one of the few decent souls in this town. 800. Drummond again, mopping his brow with a silk handkerchief. I stepped forward close enough now to see the bruises on her arms the way she favored her left leg. $1,000, cash. The crowd went dead silent. Even the flies seemed to stop buzzing. Slade's eyes narrowed to slits. That's a lot of money for a squaw, Callahan. My hand drifted to my Colt. That's a lot of mouth for a man in punching distance, Cutter. The tension crackled like lightning about to strike. The woman finally looked at me, then just a quick glance, and I saw recognition flash in her eyes. Not of me, but of something. Hope, calculation warning sold, the auctioneer croaked, banging his gavel before Slade could object. To Rafe Callahan for $1,000. I counted out the bills right there, making sure everyone saw. Clean money, not blood money, like what usually changed hands here. Sheriff Crowder wrote up the bill of sale with obvious reluctance, his pen scratching across the paper like fingernails on stone. There you go, Callahan. She's yours, legal and proper. He handed me the document with a smirk. Try not to let her knife you in your sleep. I took the paper and immediately tore it in half, then quarters, then eighths. Let the pieces scatter in the wind. The crowd gasped. Even the woman's eyes widened. No one owns another person, I said loud enough for all to hear. Not on my watch. I pulled out my knife slowly so she could see what I was doing and cut the ropes binding her wrists. You're free to go wherever you want. She rubbed her wrists, studying me with those sharp, intelligent eyes. When she spoke, her English was accented but clear. You are the one from the burning wagon, the boy from 20 summers past. My throat tightened. You know about that. Every child of the Spiral Bird clan knows. My grandfather, Chief Naichi, spoke of the white boy he saved. Said the spirits marked you for a purpose. She paused, testing her weight on that inward leg. I am Tala Greywing. Rafe Callahan. I kept my distance, hands visible and non-threatening. You need a doctor for that leg. Before she could answer, someone from the crowd yelled, Injun lover. A bottle flew through the air. I knocked it aside, but more followed, rocks, clods of dirt, whatever they could grab. The mob's ugly mood was turning uglier. "We need to move," I said. "Now." Tala nodded, already scanning for exits. Smart woman. The livery stable, back entrance. We moved together, not touching, but coordinated like dancers who knew the steps. The crowd parted reluctantly, some still shouting obscenities. Slade Cutter watched us go with calculating eyes, already planning something. I could feel it. Old man Ortiz was waiting for us at his stable, holding my horse and another saddled mare. "Figured you might need these. Take the back trail through the wash. They won't follow immediately, too busy arguing about the money." "Gracias, friend." I helped Tala mount, noting how she gritted her teeth against the pain. Tough as rawhide, this one. "I can ride," she said firmly, reading my concern. Never doubted it. As we walked the horses through the narrow alley behind Main Street, she suddenly spoke. Why what? Why spend such money? Why free me? You know nothing of me except my grandfather's deed." I considered my words carefully. "A debt is a debt. Your grandfather gave me my life. Least I can do is give you yours." She made a sound that might have been approval or skepticism. "You may regret this generosity. I was taken, trying to free my sisters. They have them still, Suri and Misa. I will not leave without them." I pulled up short. "Sisters? How many men are we talking about?" "Slade's gang, 12, maybe 14. They have a camp at Coyote's Tail Canyon." Suicide odds. Any sane man would wish her luck and ride away. But I kept seeing that spiral bird tattoo, kept remembering cool water on my burned lips, strong arms pulling me from flames. "Then we'd better get them back," I heard myself say. For the first time, something like surprise flickered across her stoic features. "You would do this?" "Ma'am, I've got a ranch. Nobody wants to steal more bullets than sense, and a 20-year-old debt eating at my conscience. Unless you've got objections to my help." She studied me for a long moment. No touching without permission. No assumptions about gratitude. I make my own choices. Wouldn't have it any other way. "Then we have an agreement, Rafe Callahan." She pronounced my name carefully, like she was tasting it. "But first, this leg needs tending, and we need supplies." Dr. Lily Hart's clinic sat at the town's edge, a small white building that stood out like a clean tooth in a rotten mouth. The doctor herself, a woman in her 40s with steel-gray hair and knowing eyes, took one look at us and ushered us in through the back door. Knife wound 3 days old, starting to fester. She diagnosed, examining Tala's leg with gentle efficiency. "You're lucky it missed the major vessels." As she cleaned and dressed the wound, Lily kept up a stream of commentary. "Saw the auction from my window. About time someone stood up to those vultures." She looked at me meaningfully. "Though you've painted a target on your back, Rafe. Wouldn't be the first time." "No, but this time you've challenged their whole business model." She tied off the bandage. "Slade's been bringing in Apache women for months. Always has papers saying they're criminals. Sheriff Crowder validates every single one." "The sheriff's in on it." Tala's voice was sharp. "Up to his badge," Lily confirmed. "And that's not all. Wyatt Drummond from the bank. He's been providing the funding. They're making a fortune selling to miners and ranchers with particular tastes." My stomach turned. "How many?" "Dozens, maybe more. Most get shipped east after sale." She looked at Tala. "Your sisters were lucky they kept them local. Means they're planning something special." "Or using them as bait," Tala said grimly. "They knew I would come." A knock at the back door made us all freeze. Lily peered through the curtain. "It's May Foster, the deputy." May was young for a deputy, maybe 25, with honest eyes and calloused hands. She slipped inside, checking behind her nervously. "Rafe, you need to know Crowder's calling in the federal marshals. Says you interfered with legal commerce." She pulled out a folded paper. "But that's not the worst part. Look at this." The paper was a property lien. If I was found guilty of any crime, Dry River Ranch would be seized for damages. They're going to come at you hard, May warned. Slade's already gathering riders. They mean to take the woman back and make an example of you. Let them try. I checked my Winchester counting cartridges. May, why are you helping us? She flushed slightly. Because what they're doing ain't law. It's evil, dressed up in legal papers. My pa taught me the difference. Tala stood testing her weight on the bandaged leg. I need to scout the canyon before dark. Learn their patterns. We need to scout it, I corrected. Partners, remember. That almost smile again. Partners. Lily handed us a bag of medical supplies. For the girls when you find them. And Rafe. There's a judge coming through Red Mesa next week. A real one, not bought and paid for. If you can get evidence. We'll get it, I promised. The sun was already past noon when we rode out, taking the long way around through the mesquite breaks. Tala rode like she was born in the saddle despite the injury. She'd changed into pants and a shirt. Lily had provided her long black hair, now braided and tucked under a hat. Still, that tattoo peeked out from her collar, a reminder of debts and destiny. Your grandfather, I started, then stopped. Is he dead? 5 winters passed. Soldiers came to move us to the reservation. He fought so others could flee. Her voice was steady, but I heard the grief underneath. He spoke of you often, said you would return the kindness one day. Prophetic. He had the sight. It runs in our bloodline. She glanced at me sideways, as does stubbornness and a talent for finding trouble. Sounds familiar. I've got Irish in my blood, same gifts. We reached a rise overlooking Coyote's Tail Canyon just as the sun started its descent toward the western peaks. The camp below was bigger than I'd expected, maybe 15 men with horses, wagons, and what looked like a stockade built against the canyon wall. Tala produced a small spyglass from her saddlebag. Where had she hidden that and studied the layout carefully? There, that building with the barred windows. They'll be keeping the women there. She swept the glass across the camp. Guards change at sunset and dawn. They get lazy around midnight, too much whiskey. You've done this before. Freed captives. Yes, from men like these. Also, yes, she lowered the glass, but never with a partner. I studied the terrain, noting approach routes and escape paths. That narrow trail on the north side leads up to the rimrock. Good for cover, but only one way out if things go bad. Unless we make our own way. She pointed to a scree slope on the eastern edge. Horses can't manage it, but people can. If we had ropes. I've got ropes. What else? A distraction would help. Something to draw them away from the stockade. An idea formed. Crazy, dangerous, but maybe just crazy enough. What if we let them think they're winning, draw them out on their terms? She looked at me sharply. You mean use me as bait? No, I mean use us as bait, together. Make them think we're scouting for a weakness, let them chase us. While they're gone, someone else frees the captives. She nodded slowly. But who, your deputy friend? May would do it. And Ortiz knows these canyons like his own reflection. If we could get word to them. A shout from below cut off my planning. Riders were mounting up, heading for the canyon entrance. Had they spotted us? No, they were heading toward town. 6 riders moving fast. They're going after you, Tala said with certainty. To your ranch. Let them find it empty. But worry gnawed at me. My foreman Tom was there with 2 hands. Good men, but not fighters. We need those sisters out tonight, Tala said urgently, before they realize their trap failed and move them somewhere else. The sun was a blood-red ball on the horizon now. Decision time. Can you make it down that north trail in the dark? She gave me a look that could have peeled paint. I could make it blindfolded. Then we go tonight, just the 2 of us. Get in, get the girls, get out before they know what hit them. And if we're caught, I checked my Colt, then the Winchester. Then we make enough noise to bring help. May and Lily know where we are. She was quiet for a moment, then extended her hand. For my grandfather's debt and my sister's freedom. I shook it, noting the calluses, the strength. for both. We waited for full dark, watching the camp settle into its nighttime routine. The guards made their rounds predictable as clockwork. Someone started a poker game near the main fire. Bottles appeared and began making rounds. "There," Tala whispered, pointing. A guard was leaving his post by the stockade, heading for the bushes. Nature's call. Now! We descended the trail like ghosts, her injured leg showing no weakness, despite what must have been considerable pain. The moon was new, giving us cover of darkness, but making every step treacherous. 20 yards from the stockade, we froze. Voices coming closer, 2 men discussing something about tomorrow's shipment. "Drummond wants them clean and unbruised," one said. "Says the buyers in Denver pay extra for quality." "Quality?" the other snorted. "Like their horses." They passed within 10 feet of us. I could have reached out and touched them. Tala's hand found mine in the dark, squeezing once. "Wait." The men moved on. We crept forward. The stockade was a crude but solid structure built from cedar posts chinked with adobe. One door barred from outside. A single barred window too high to reach without standing on something. Tala made a low whistle like a night bird. An answering whistle came from inside. "Misa," she breathed. Quick whispers in Apache through the door gaps. Then Tala turned to me. 5 women inside, my sisters and 3 others, all hurt but able to walk. The bar across the door was heavy, but not locked arrogance on their part. I lifted it slowly, wincing at every creak. The door swung open on leather hinges. 5 shapes huddled in the darkness. 2 rushed forward, had to be the sisters based on how they clung to Tala. The reunion was silent but intense. "We need to move," I urged. "Can everyone walk?" One of the other women older shook her head. "My ankle's broken." Without hesitation, I knelt. "Climb on my back, we're not leaving anyone." She hesitated until Tala spoke sharply in Apache. Then thin arms wrapped around my neck. We were halfway to the trail when the shouting started. The missing guard had been discovered, or maybe they'd done a count. Didn't matter now. "Run," I hissed. We ran. 5 women, Tala and me, scrambling up that impossible trail in near-total darkness. Behind us, torches flared to life. Men shouted. A rifle cracked the bullet, whining off rocks to our left. "Faster," Tala urged, supporting one sister while pulling the other. My lungs burned. The woman on my back weighed almost nothing, but the trail was steep and treacherous. More shots closer now. "They're coming up behind us," one of the girls cried. I set the injured woman down gently and turned with my Winchester. "Keep going, I'll slow them down." "No." Tala spun back. "We stay together or—" The first pursuer rounded the bend below. I fired, saw him tumble back into his companions. Chaos on the narrow trail. "Together then," I gasped. "But move!" We reached the top just as the eastern sky began to lighten. The horses were where we'd left them, but we only had 2 for 7 people. "Take them and ride," I told Tala. "Get to Lily's." "And leave you." Fire flashed in her eyes. "Never." Stubborn woman. Stubborn man. Despite everything, I almost laughed. Then I heard horses below. They'd found another way up. "Into the rocks," I decided. "Make them come to us." We scrambled into a maze of boulders just as the first riders crested the ridge. 6 men, Slade Cutter in the lead. His face was twisted with rage. "Callahan, you just signed your death warrant. Get in line, Cutter. I've been collecting those for years." He dismounted his men, spreading out to flank us. We were trapped, outnumbered, and running low on ammunition, but I'd been in worse spots. Well, maybe not worse, but close. "Tell you what," Slade called out. "Give us the women and you walk away. Even call us square on that $1,000. "Counter offer!" I shouted back. "You turn around now and I don't put a bullet through that ugly face of yours." Someone laughed. Not Slade, someone behind him, a familiar voice that made my blood run cold. Sheriff Crowder rode up 12 men with him. "Afraid that's not how this works, Callahan. You're under arrest for theft, kidnapping, and interference with legal commerce." "Legal," Tala stood up despite my attempt to pull her down. You call slavery legal. I call it what the papers say, Crowder replied. And the papers say you're property. Papers can burn, she said quietly. Something in her tone made everyone pause. Then I smelled its smoke. Down in the canyon, the camp was on fire. The stockade, the wagons, everything burning with a peculiar green flame that seemed to jump from structure to structure with unnatural speed. "What did you do?" Slade roared. Tala smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her. "Apache fire, my grandmother's recipe, burns even in rain, spreads like thought." "When," I whispered to her, "when you were lifting the bar, a small gift I left behind." The smoke was rising now, a pillar visible for miles. That would bring attention, the kind Crowder couldn't control with papers and threats. "The federal marshals will see that—" May Foster's voice rang out. She rode up from the opposite direction, and she wasn't alone. Old Man Ortiz was with her, along with Dr. Lilly and what looked like half the decent folks from town. "What is this?" Crowder demanded. "Justice," May replied, her hand on her pistol. "The real kind. You're outnumbered, girl." "Am I?" She pointed toward town. A dust cloud was approaching more riders, many more. "Funny thing about that smoke, brings out the curious. And when curious folks learn you've been selling women like cattle, well—" The approaching riders became visible, not Apache families, ranchers, farmers, townspeople who'd had enough. Some I recognized as men who'd lost daughters or wives to Indian raids that never made sense. Crowder's men were looking nervous now, fingers twitching toward weapons but uncertain. "This isn't over," Slade snarled. "Yes," Tala said simply. "It is." She pulled something from her shirt, papers folded and sealed. "From your camp safe, bills of sale, ledgers, correspondence with Denver buyers." She held them up. "All signed by you, Sheriff, and you, Mr. Cutter." How had she the fire? It had been a distraction for us, too. She'd robbed them while I was carrying the injured woman. "Those are stolen property," Crowder spluttered. "Then arrest me," Tala challenged. "In front of all these witnesses, explain what these papers are, read them aloud." The sheriff's face went from red to white. He knew what those papers contained, evidence that would see him hanged. "We're leaving," he announced suddenly. "This isn't worth—" "No." The injured woman I'd carried spoke up, her voice carrying surprising strength. "You don't get to just leave. My daughter died in your camps. Maria Gonzalez, taken 6 months ago. Where is she? And my wife," another voice from the crowd. "My sister. My friend." The voices multiplied, each naming someone lost. The crowd pressed closer, and for the first time I saw fear in Slade Cutter's eyes. "May," I said quietly, "might want to take these men into protective custody for their own safety." She understood immediately. "Sheriff Crowder, Mr. Cutter, you're under arrest. For your own protection, you'll be held until the federal judge arrives." "You can't—" "I can and I am." She drew her pistol. "Unless you'd prefer to discuss it with these folks directly." Crowder looked at the crowd, saw his fate in their eyes, and raised his hands. "We'll come quietly." The sun was fully up now, painting the desert gold and red. The smoke from the canyon had become a smudge on the horizon. The sisters clung to each other and to Tala, finally safe. The other freed women were being tended by Dr. Lilly and the town's mothers. "It's done then," I said to Tala. "The beginning is done," she corrected. "There are more camps. More men like Cutter. More papers that lie." "Then we'd better get to work." She looked at me, something unreadable in her expression. "That debt to your grandfather saving you doesn't half cover it. Man saved my life, gave me a chance to become who I am. Figure helping you save others might start to balance the scales. And if it takes years, got nothing but time and a ranch that mostly runs itself." She was quiet for a long moment, then extended her hand again. "Partners, partners." As we shook, Deputy May rode up. "Rafe, there's something else." Found this in Crowder's office. She handed me a telegram. Stop immediately. Federal investigation underway. Preserve all evidence. Judge Harrison arriving. Red Mesa, Thursday. U.S. Marshal Service. Thursday, I said. 3 days. 3 days to keep Crowder and Slade alive. May added, glancing at the crowd. That might be harder than catching them was. We'll manage, Tala said. She looked at her sisters. We've survived worse. As we prepared to head back to town, the injured woman I'd carried touched my arm. Thank you. Just doing what's right, ma'am. No, she said firmly. You're doing what's dangerous. There's a difference. I thought about that as we formed up for the ride back. She was right. Right was easy to know, but hard to do. It meant standing in that auction yard, seeing evil dressed up as law and saying no loud enough for everyone to hear. But as I watched Tala help her sisters onto horses, saw the freed women supporting each other, witnessed a whole town finally standing up to its own corruption, I knew something else dangerous was just another word for necessary when the world was this broken. Rafe, Tala called out, "You coming?" I mounted up, falling in beside her. The spiral bird tattoo caught the morning light, and for a moment I could swear it moved wings, spreading as if ready to soar. Yeah, I said, I'm coming. We rode back toward town together, the sun climbing higher, and somewhere in the distance I could hear thunder. Storm coming maybe, or maybe just the sound of change rolling across the desert like a promise of rain. Behind us, the camp continued to burn with that strange green fire, consuming every bill of sale, every chain, every lie written on paper that said one person could own another. 3 days to the judge. 3 days to keep the evidence and witnesses safe. 3 days for Crowder's remaining men to try something desperate. I checked my rifle again and noticed Tala doing the same. Thinking what I'm thinking, I asked, that 3 days is a long time when desperate men have everything to lose. That's about it. She smiled, that rare smile again. Good. I was getting bored with all this peaceful resolution. Deputy May rode up on my other side. Just got word, Drummond from the bank has barricaded himself in his office with hired guns. Says he's got documents that prove everything was legal. Documents, Tala said with disgust. Always hiding behind papers. Then maybe it's time we stopped letting paper be stronger than truth, I suggested. What are you thinking, Rafe? May asked. I'm thinking Drummond's about to learn that bills of sale don't stop bullets, and legal documents don't mean much when the whole town knows you're a slaver. That sounds like vigilante talk. No, I corrected. That sounds like justice finally getting impatient with law. As we rode into town, I could see people gathering in the streets. Word had spread fast about the raid, the rescue, the evidence. Some looked relieved, some looked angry, some looked ready for whatever came next. Wyatt Drummond was about to discover what happened when a town stopped being afraid of the men who claimed to own it. But first, we had 3 women who needed medical attention, 2 sisters who needed to know they were finally safe, and a truth that needed telling to every soul who'd been too scared to speak before. The debt to Chief Naichi wasn't close to paid, might never be fully, but with every woman freed, every slaver exposed, every lying paper burned, the scales tipped a little more toward balance. Your grandfather, I said to Tala, as we dismounted at Doc Lily's, did he know this would happen? He knew you were a man who paid his debts, she replied. The rest, that's just the spirits having their fun with us. Fun, I repeated, looking at the gathering crowd, the burned camp in the distance, the challenges still ahead. That's one word for it. What word would you use? I thought for a moment. Beginning. She nodded, understanding in her eyes. Yes, a good beginning. The thunder rolled closer, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Not enough to put out Apache fire, but enough to wash some of the dust and blood from the streets. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Drummond and his papers, Crowder's allies, the judge who might be bought or might be honest. The other camps Tala had mentioned, the other women still captive. But today we'd won something. Not just freedom for 5 women, but proof that papers couldn't make evil into good, that enough people standing together could overwhelm wrong, no matter how official it looked. I watched Tala reunite with her sisters properly, speaking in rapid Apache, touching faces, checking wounds. The spiral bird tattoo seemed to dance in the lamplight of Lily's clinic. "Hey, Callahan," someone called out. "What you did today?" I turned to see a crowd gathering, men and women I'd known for years, but who'd never really seen me before. "What we all did," I corrected. "Every one of us who stood up." "But you started it, in that auction yard." "No," I said loud enough for all to hear. "Chief Naichi started it 20 years ago when he saved a burned boy who didn't deserve saving. Today was just interest coming due on an old debt." "Must be some interest rate," someone joked, and nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. "The best kind," Tala said, appearing at my side with her sisters. "The kind that grows until it changes the world." Deputy May pushed through the crowd. "Rafe, Tala, we've got a problem. Drummond's sent riders north, to the army fort." "Claiming what?" I asked. "Indian uprising. Says Tala's an Apache raider who burned a peaceful settlement." The crowd murmured angrily. They'd seen the truth, but the army wouldn't care about that. "How long until they arrive?" Tala asked calmly. "Day, maybe 2. "Then we'd better make sure the truth is louder than his lies," I said. "How?" I looked at the crowd, at the freed women, at the evidence in Tala's hands. "We write our own papers. Every person here signs a witness statement. We send our own riders to the fort, to the marshals, to every newspaper that'll listen." "Fight paper with paper," Tala mused. "Your grandfather would appreciate the irony." "Our grandfather," I corrected. "Seems we're family now in all the ways that matter." She looked at me, then really looked, and for a moment the world narrowed to just us standing in that dusty street, with rain starting to fall harder. "Family," she repeated softly. Then louder to her sisters, to the crowd. "Yes, family fights together." The crowd roared approval, and I knew then that whatever came next, army judges or more men like Slade Cutter, we'd face it together. The spiral bird had brought me full circle, from a burning wagon to a burning camp, from a saved boy to a man trying to save others, from debt to something that might one day become redemption. Thunder crashed overhead, and the rain became a downpour, but no one moved. We all stood there, survivors and witnesses, fighters and family, letting the water wash us clean while somewhere in the distance, Apache fire burned on, untouched by any storm that nature or man could bring. The rain had turned the street into mud, but nobody seemed to care as we crowded into the town hall. Tala set the pace, her injured leg barely slowing her, as she spread the captured documents across the mayor's desk. Each page revealed another horror: names, dates, prices, human lives reduced to inventory. This one, Suri, the older sister, pointed to an entry with a trembling finger. "Maria Gonzalez. She was with us for 3 days before they took her to Denver." The dead girl's mother, the woman I'd carried from the camp, let out a sound that wasn't quite a sob, wasn't quite a scream. "Doctor..." Lily put an arm around her, but there was no comfort for that kind of loss. "We need to move faster," Tala said, studying the papers with cold intensity. "According to these ledgers, another shipment is scheduled for tomorrow night." "From where?" May asked, leaning over the desk. "The old Riverside station. 6 women from the Mescalero band." Tala's jaw tightened. "My cousin's daughter might be among them." I traced the route on the map. "That's 20 miles north, if we leave now." "It's a trap," Old Man Ortiz interrupted. "Has to be. Drummond knows we have these papers. He's trying to draw us out." "Or," Tala countered, "he's moving up the schedule before the judge arrives, getting rid of evidence." A commotion outside made everyone freeze. Horses riding hard. I moved to the window, hand on my Colt. 3 riders dismounted in the rain, not Drummond's men, but ranchers from the valley, the Brady brothers and Sam Hutchins. They burst through the door, water streaming from their coats. Callahan. They got Tom. My blood went cold. Tom was my foreman left to watch Dry River Ranch. What happened? Drummond's men took him about an hour ago. Left this. Jake Brady handed me a wet piece of paper. The message was simple. Your man for the Apache woman. Sunset, Miller's Crossing. Come alone or he dies. Like hell, I muttered. You can't go, May said immediately. It's clearly a trap, I know. I crumpled the paper. But Tom's been with me 8 years. I won't leave him to die. Then we all go, Tala said simply. They said alone. They say many things. Most are lies. She turned to her sisters. Suri, you remember the hunting pattern our father taught us? The younger girl nodded, some of her fear replaced by determination. The spiral trap. What's that? I asked. You'll see. Tala moved to the map. Miller's Crossing is here. Canyon walls on 2 sides, open ground north and south. They'll expect you from the south, from town. But if we circle wide, come from the ridgeline, I began to see it. Exactly. You go in the front door while we become the walls closing in. May shook her head. I can't let civilians. We're not civilians. Misa, the younger sister, spoke up for the first time. Her voice was soft but firm. We're survivors, and we know these men, how they think, what they fear. What do they fear? Someone asked. Apache women with nothing left to lose, Tala answered, and something in her voice made the room go quiet. I looked around at the assembled group, townspeople who'd been cowed for months, freed women still bearing bruises, a deputy barely old enough to wear a badge. Not exactly an army, but then again, neither were the Patriots at Lexington. We need to split up, I decided. May take half the people and secure Drummond's bank. Don't let him destroy any more evidence. That's robbery. That's protecting federal evidence in an ongoing investigation, I corrected. The telegram said preserve everything. She grinned. When you put it that way, Ortiz, can you get word to the fort about what's really happening? My nephew rides for the mail service. He can be there by dawn. Good. The rest of us. Wait. Dr. Lilly interrupted. The women from the camp need rest medical attention. They can't. We can. The injured woman. I'd learned her name was Rosa, said firmly. For Maria. For all of them. We can. Thunder crashed overhead, rattling the windows. In the flash of lightning, I saw Tala watching me with those dark, knowing eyes. Your grandfather, I said quietly. Would he approve of this plan? My grandfather would ask why we're still talking instead of riding. That decided it. We armed ourselves from the sheriff's own armory, poetic justice, May called it. The freed women knew how to shoot it, turned out. Slade's men had made the mistake of bragging about their weapons, demonstrating them to intimidate. They'd actually taught their captives exactly what they needed to know. We rode out in 3 groups as the rain began to slacken. My group would approach Miller's Crossing directly, making noise, letting them see us coming. Tala led her sisters and 2 of the freed women around to the east, moving like shadows despite their injuries. May took the rest back toward town, but she'd circle to the bank once we had Drummond's attention. The sun was fighting through the storm clouds, casting everything in an eerie yellow light. Miller's Crossing appeared ahead, an old trading post abandoned years ago, when the railroad went through further south, perfect for an ambush. I could see Tom's horse tied outside and movement in the windows, at least 6 men, maybe more. That's far enough, Callahan. Drummond's voice carried across the distance. He stepped out using Tom as a shield. My foreman looked rough, black eye, split lip, but alive. Let him go, Drummond. Your fight's with me. Wrong. My fight's with anyone who threatens my business. He gestured, and more men appeared. I counted 12. Where's the Apache? Safe. Then your man dies. Tom struggled against his bonds. Don't do it, Rafe. It's a... Drummond hit him with a pistol butt, dropping him to his knees. My finger tightened on the trigger, but I was too far for a clean shot. I'm here! Tala's voice rang out, but not from behind me, from the rocks above Drummond's position. You want me? Come get me. Drummond spun his men, raising rifles, but she was already gone, a ghost in the rocks. It's her, one man shouted, the one who burned the camp. 3 men started climbing toward where her voice had been. That's when Suri appeared on the opposite ridge, just long enough to loose an arrow that took one climber in the shoulder. He fell screaming. It's a trap, someone yelled. No! I called out, walking closer, rifle ready. It's justice. You boys have a choice. Drop your guns and live, or keep them and find out what Apache justice looks like. You're bluffing. There's only... Misa's rifle cracked from another position. A man's hat flew off a neat hole through the crown. That was a warning, her young voice carried clearly. I don't miss twice. The men were looking around nervously now, trying to cover all angles. That's when I heard it, horses approaching from the south. Lots of them. May appeared with what looked like half the town behind her, and they weren't coming to watch. Federal marshals are 2 hours out, she announced. Anyone still holding a gun when they get here will be considered hostile. You don't have authority, Drummond started. I do. A new voice, Judge Harrison himself, riding with May's group. He was earlier than expected, and his timing couldn't have been better. Deputy Foster sent a rider to intercept me. I've seen the evidence. Wyatt Drummond, you're under arrest for trafficking conspiracy and about a dozen other charges I'll enjoy listing at your trial. Drummond went for his gun. 3 things happened simultaneously. I shot the weapon from his hand. Tom rolled away from him despite being tied, and Tala appeared behind Drummond like a materialized spirit, her knife at his throat. Move and bleed, she said simply. His men dropped their weapons. They knew the game was over. As May's people secured the prisoners, I cut Tom free. You all right? Been better? He rubbed his wrists, but seeing Drummond nearly soil himself when that Apache girl appeared, worth the bruises. Tala had stepped away from Drummond once he was restrained, but I noticed her favor that injured leg more now. The day's exertions had taken a toll. We need to get you back to Doc Lily, I said. After, she said, producing more papers from inside her shirt. How many had she taken? These show the routes, the contacts in Denver, everything. Judge Harrison examined them, his face growing darker with each page. This is extensive. There are names here of men I've dined with, respected businessmen. Respected slavers, Tala corrected. Yes, he agreed sadly. That too. As we prepared to head back to town, Rosa approached Tom. You were willing to die rather than betray them. Tom shrugged, embarrassed. Man doesn't sell out friends, not for any price. Friends, she repeated, looking at all of us, white Mexican Apache, all standing together in the fading stormlight. Yes. The ride back was quiet, each of us processing what had happened and what was still to come. The judge would need statements, there would be trials, and somewhere out there were more camps, more men like Slade and Drummond. The Riverside Station, I said to Tala. The shipment was a lie, she admitted, but Drummond didn't know I knew that. His own paranoia defeated him. You played him. My grandfather taught me chess. He said the best victory is when your enemy defeats himself. We were almost to town when we saw the smoke, not from a fire, from a train. An unscheduled train sitting at the depot. That's not right, May muttered. We rode faster. The train was military U.S. Army emblazoned on the sides. Soldiers were already deploying into the town, rifles ready. Stand down, Judge Harrison commanded, but a captain stepped forward. Judge, we've received reports of an Apache uprising, multiple attacks on settlements. Lies, the judge said firmly. I've been here. There's no uprising, just criminals trying to cover their tracks. The captain looked skeptical. We have orders. Captain Reynolds, Tala interrupted. Everyone turned to stare at her. James Reynolds, you served at Fort Grant 3 years ago. The captain's eyes widened. You're Nietzsche's granddaughter. You brought medicine when the fever hit our camp. I did. And you shared your medical supplies with our band when the government shipment got lost. He nodded slowly. I remember. He looked at his men, then at the prisoners May's people were holding. Perhaps we should hear the full story before acting on reports. It took 2 hours to explain everything, with evidence spread across 3 tables in the hotel dining room. The captain's face went from skeptical to horrified to furious as the truth emerged. These men used army reports to track Apache movements, he said, studying one document. They knew where families would be when they'd be vulnerable, and certain officers were paid to look the other way, Judge Harrison added. I'll need your help investigating that, Captain. You'll have it, Reynolds said grimly. That night, as the town settled into an exhausted peace, I found Tala sitting on the porch of Doc Lily's clinic, watching the stars emerge. How's the leg healing? She shifted to make room for me on the bench. Your foreman, Tom, tough as leather, already complaining about missing work. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then she spoke. The sisters want to go east, to the school in Carlisle. My stomach dropped. You're leaving. They need education to fight this battle in the future, with laws and papers, not guns and fire. And you? She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. There are more camps, more women to free. I can't stop now. I know. I looked at my hands calloused from years of ranch work. What if you didn't have to do it alone? You have a ranch to run. Tom can handle it, has been handling it really. I just get in his way. She turned to look at me fully. You would leave your land, your life. My life was saved by your grandfather so I could save others. Seems like I've been wasting it on cattle when I should have been living his debt forward. That's not how debts work. No, I agreed, but it's how honor does. She considered this. It will be dangerous. Good thing I'm partnered with someone who knows how to burn things down properly. That almost smile again. The camps won't be easy to find. The men running them will be warned now. Then we'd better be smarter, and we'll have help. I gestured toward the town. Look what happened here when people stood together. This could happen everywhere. You're talking about a war. I'm talking about finishing what your grandfather started when he pulled a boy from a burning wagon. He didn't just save my life, he gave me a purpose. Just took me 20 years to figure out what it was. Tala was quiet again, but I could feel her thinking, weighing options, like her grandfather had taught her to weigh chess moves. There's something else, she finally said. In the papers I took, there were references to someone called the Collector. Someone above Drummond, above even the Denver buyers. Someone in Washington. How high does this go? High enough that Judge Harrison went pale when he saw the name. Did he say who? No, but he's sending sealed documents to the Attorney General tomorrow with an army escort. We watched as a shooting star streaked across the sky. Make a wish, my mother used to say, but I didn't need to. Everything I wanted was becoming clear. Partners? I asked, extending my hand. She took it, her grip firm and sure. Partners. Tala, Rafe. Misa came running out, the eyes bright with excitement. Come quick, something's happening. We followed her inside to find the clinic in controlled chaos. Rosa was in labor. Apparently the stress had triggered it early. Doc Lily was calm but focused, issuing orders to her makeshift assistants. Is she all right? Tala asked. She will be, Lily said, but I need everyone to... A scream from Rosa cut her off. Then another sound, a baby's cry. Strong and healthy and absolutely alive. It's a girl, Lily announced. And something about that, a girl born free on the night her mother was liberated, made several people start crying. What will you name her? Someone asked. Rosa looked at Tala, then at me, then at all the people who'd fought for her freedom. Hope, she said. Maria Hope. For my daughter who died and for the future that might be. Tala squeezed my hand, and I realized she was crying too, just a little, but enough. Your grandfather would have liked this, I said quietly. Yes, she agreed. New life from old pain, the circle continuing. Outside, Captain Reynolds was organizing his men to hunt down the remaining camps based on the captured intelligence. May was preparing cases with Judge Harrison. The town was transforming from a place of fear to a place of action. But inside that clinic, in that moment, everything centered on a baby's cry and a mother's joy and the simple miracle of freedom earned and witnessed. "Tomorrow we start hunting the other camps," I asked Tala. "Tomorrow," she agreed. "But tonight we remember why we fight." She leaned against me slightly just for a moment, and I felt the weight of her exhaustion and determination both. The spiral bird tattoo was partially visible where her collar had shifted, and in the lamplight it really did seem to move, wings spreading toward some distant horizon where justice and law might finally mean the same thing. The baby had stopped crying, settling into her mother's arms. Rosa was singing something in Spanish, a lullaby, probably while the women around her hummed along. It was beautiful and sad and hopeful all at once. "The collector," I said suddenly. "We're going after him, aren't we?" Eventually, Tala agreed. "But first, we free every woman we can find. We build a network of our own. We make it so expensive and dangerous to trade in human lives that even Washington has to pay attention. That could take years. My grandfather waited 20 years for his debt to begin repayment. I can be patient too." Tom appeared in the doorway, sporting a spectacular black eye but grinning. "Rafe, you need to see this." We followed him outside where a crowd had gathered. Someone had built a bonfire in the street. Not an angry mob fire, but a celebration. People were burning things, not buildings or property, but papers, bills of sale, debt notices that had kept families in bondage, all the little lies that had given evil men power over decent folks. Sheriff Crowder, in chains and waiting for transport to federal prison, watched from the jail wagon as his carefully constructed system of legal slavery went up in smoke. "Feels good, doesn't it?" May said, feeding another forged document to the flames. "It's a start," Tala said, and it was. Just the start. There would be more fights, more camps to find, more women to free. The collector was still out there spinning his web from Washington. The system that allowed men like Drummond and Crowder to operate still existed. But tonight, in this small Arizona town under stars, that had watched her grandfather save a burning boy, and that boy grow into a man who would save others. Tala Greywing and I stood together and watched lies burn while truth took its first free breath. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, new dangers, new enemies. Tonight, though, we had this partnership forged in fire freedom, witnessed in flame, and the crying of a baby born into liberty her mother had fought to claim. The spiral bird had brought us full circle. Now it was time to widen the spiral, to spread those wings until they covered everyone who needed shelter from the storm of human greed. "Ready?" Tala asked as the fire began to die down. "For what? Whatever comes next." I thought about that, about the weight of the choice we were making, the danger we were courting, the lives we might save or lose. "Yeah," I said finally, "I'm ready." And I was. For the first time in 20 years, I knew exactly who I was meant to be and what I was meant to do. The debt to Chief Naichi would never be fully paid. Some debts are too large for that. But in trying to pay it and living each day forward, in honor of that original mercy, maybe something even better than payment could emerge. Maybe redemption, maybe justice, maybe just two people marked by different worlds, but bound by shared purpose, making the frontier a little less cruel, one freed soul at a time. The fire crackled its last, sending sparks up toward stars that seemed for once to be watching with approval. The spark that died in the street fire seemed to jump into the stars themselves, because that's when we saw the riders coming hard from the north. Captain Reynolds's men formed a defensive line, but Tala grabbed my arm. "Wait, those are Apache horses." She was right. The riders moved differently, flowed with their mounts rather than commanding them. As they grew closer, Tala gasped, "Uncle Marcus!" The lead rider, a weathered Apache man with gray streaking his long hair pulled up short. His eyes went from Tala to her sisters, and his face crumbled with relief. "Little bird, we thought you were lost." Nearly was. She embraced him quickly, efficiently, but I saw her hands tremble. "How did you find us?" "The smoke from the camp. Apache fire leaves a particular signature." His eyes found mine lingering on my face with an expression I couldn't read. "You're Callahan." "I am." "The one who bought her freedom." "The one who restored it," Tala corrected. "There's a difference, Uncle." Marcus studied me for another long moment, then extended his hand. "My brother spoke of you often before he died. Said the spirits had plans for you." "Seems the spirits have plans for all of us," I replied, shaking his hand. "More than you know." His expression darkened. "We intercepted Slade Cutter trying to flee north. He had interesting things to say when properly motivated." May stepped forward, badge glinting. "You didn't kill him, no, though it was tempting." Marcus gestured to his men, who produced a bound and gagged Slade from across a horse. The gang leader looked considerably worse for wear. "He's yours for official justice, but first he has something to tell you." They ungagged Slade, who spat blood before speaking. "There's another auction, tonight. Devil's Hollow. 15 women, maybe 20. "You're lying," May said immediately. "No lie," Slade croaked. "The collector's personal selection. Special buyers coming from San Francisco. High-dollar event." Tala and I exchanged glances. Devil's Hollow was where we'd made our first stand, where this all really began. "How many guards? 30, maybe 40. Professional guns, not local trash." Slade's eyes darted between us. "Look, I told you what I know. That's worth something, right? Maybe a deal." "The only deal you're getting is a rope instead of a bullet," Tom said flatly. Judge Harrison had joined our growing circle. "Devil's Hollow is outside my immediate jurisdiction. We'd need federal authority. Or we need to move now before they scatter," Tala interrupted. 20 women's lives against paperwork. "It could be a trap," Captain Reynolds pointed out, "drawing our forces away from town." "Everything's a trap lately," I said. "Doesn't mean we stop walking forward." Marcus spoke up. "My men and I will go regardless. These are our people being sold." "Our people," Rosa corrected, still cradling baby hope. "Human beings are everyone's people." The judge wrestled with the decision visibly. "I cannot officially sanction." "Then don't," May said, unpinning her badge and handing it to him. "I'm taking personal leave. What I do as a private citizen is my own business." One by one, others followed suit. Tom and the ranch hands, several townspeople, even Doc Lilly grabbed a rifle. "Someone needs to tend wounds," she said when people stared. "This is insane," the judge muttered. "This is necessary," Tala countered. She turned to me. "The goat path we used before. If Slade's telling the truth about numbers, we'll need a better plan." "I might have something," Old Man Ortiz said. Everyone turned to look at him. "Dynamite. Been saving it for stump clearing. Got maybe 20 sticks." "That could work," I mused, remembering the narrow approach to Devil's Hollow. "Block their escape routes, funnel them where we want them." "Funnel 40 armed men." Captain Reynolds shook his head. "That's not tactics, that's suicide." "Not if we make them think they're winning first," Tala said slowly, that chess player mind working. "Let them chase shadows while we position ourselves." We spent the next hour planning while the moon rose higher. The Apache warriors would create false trails, mock attacks to divide the enemy force. May's group would set the dynamite at key points. Tala and I would lead a small team to free the women while everyone was distracted. "It's still crazy," Reynolds said, but he was checking his sidearm as he said it, which is probably why it might work. We rode out in scattered groups to avoid attention. The night was clear now, stars bright enough to navigate by. Tala rode beside me, her sisters with Marcus's group for safety. "You're worried," she observed. 40 men is a lot, even divided. "That's not what worries you." She was right, of course. The collector, if this is his personal selection, he might be there. Good, I have questions for him. Questions you ask with a knife. That depends on his answers. We reached the outer perimeter of Devil's Hollow as clouds began covering the moon. Perfect timing. Darkness would be our ally. Below the hollow was lit with torches and lanterns, creating pools of light and shadow. I counted heads through my field glass. Slade hadn't lied about the numbers. "There," Tala pointed to a reinforced wagon near the back. "That's where they'll be." Women's voices carried faintly on the wind, crying, pleading, one singing what sounded like a death song. My hands tightened on the rifle. "Wait," Tala whispered. "Look at the guards, their positions." I looked again. She was right. The guards were all facing outward, protecting against external threat. But they'd left the wagon itself relatively unwatched from behind. "Arrogance," she said. "They think the women are too broken to run. They're about to learn otherwise." Marcus's first false attack came from the north war cries and gunfire that sent half the guards scrambling. Then another from the east, drawing more men. The camp erupted in confused shouts and contradictory orders. "Now," I whispered. We slipped down the back trail, 5 of us, including Tala, Tom, and 2 of Marcus's warriors. The wagon loomed ahead, its reinforced sides like a fortress. But fortresses have weak points. Tala produced a small metal tool and went to work on the lock. The mechanism clicked open in seconds. Inside, women huddled in chains, eyes wide with fear that shifted to confusion as they saw us. "Quiet," Tala whispered in Apache, then Spanish, then English. "We're getting you out." Tom and I started cutting chains while Tala kept watch. One of the women, barely 16, grabbed Tala's arm. They said someone special was coming, someone important, to choose his favorite. "When?" Tala asked urgently. "Soon, maybe already here." A shout from outside made us all freeze. "The wagon, check the wagon! Move!" I hissed, helping the last woman down. Some could barely walk, requiring support. We weren't going to make it to the trail in time. That's when Ortiz's dynamite went off. The first explosion blocked the main entrance to the hollow. The second took out their horse picket. Panic erupted as men realized they were trapped. In the chaos, we herded the women toward our escape route. "Stop right there!" The voice was cultured Eastern, completely out of place. A man stepped from behind an outcropping, pistol drawn. He was everything the frontier wasn't, clean pressed, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most men made in a year. "The collector, I presume," Tala said calmly. "Senator Aldrich, actually." He smiled coldly. "Though I suppose my hobby has earned me that nickname." Senator. My God, it went that high. "Let the women go," I said. "Your operation's finished. Take what's left of your dignity and leave." "Dignity?" He laughed. "I'm providing a service. These savages would starve on the reservations. At least as servants they have purpose." "As slaves, you mean?" Tala said. "Such an ugly word. I prefer relocated workers." More explosions rocked the hollow. In the flashing light, I saw riders pouring in Captain Reynolds's soldiers despite his reservations about jurisdiction. The corrupt guards were throwing down weapons, surrendering. "It's over, Senator," I said. "Is it?" He smiled again and raised his voice. "Lieutenant Morrison, arrest these people for interfering with government operations." A young officer appeared with several soldiers. My heart sank. He'd brought military backup, official orders, probably. "Sir," Morrison said uncertainly, looking at the chained women, the surrendering guards, the obvious signs of what had been happening here. I said, "Arrest them, Lieutenant. These Apache attacked a peaceful government convoy." Peaceful. Rosa emerged from our group, baby hope in her arms. "I was at your peaceful camp. So was my daughter Maria before you sold her to die." Morrison's face went pale. "Sir, these are women and children." "They're Apache raiders, Lieutenant. Follow your orders. The young officer looked at his men, at us, at the senator. Then, in a moment that would define his career and possibly his life, he lowered his weapon. No, sir. That's insubordination. That's conscience, Morrison replied. Arrest the senator. You can't. I have immunity. I have connections. You have the right to remain silent, May said, appearing with her badge somehow back in place. Though I doubt you'll use it. The senator pulled a hidden derringer aiming at Tala. 3 shots rang out simultaneously, mine, Tom's, and Morrison's. The senator crumpled his weapon unfired. Is he dead? Someone asked. Doc Lilly knelt beside him. No, but he won't be traveling to Washington anytime soon, or anywhere else without assistance. As the soldiers secured the scene and Captain Reynolds took official command, Tala stood over the wounded senator. Your collection days are over. He glared up at her, hatred burning in his eyes, even through the pain. You think you've won, I'm one of dozens. The market doesn't disappear just because you cut off one supplier. No, she agreed. But it shrinks, and we'll keep cutting until there's nothing left. Savage, he spat. Human, she corrected. The ride back to town was surreal. A convoy of freed women, captured slavers, and unlikely allies moving through the pre-dawn darkness. Some of the women sang softly in their own languages. Others wept. Still others stared at the stars as if seeing them for the first time. 23, Tom counted. 23 women freed tonight. 23 out of hundreds, Tala said quietly. It's a start, I reminded her. She nodded, but I could see the weight on her shoulders. Every woman freed reminded her of those still captive. Back in town, the scene was controlled chaos. Judge Harrison was drafting warrants and testimonies. The army was setting up a temporary court. Freed women were being reunited with families or taken to Doc Lilly's for care. Rafe, Captain Reynolds, approached us. The lieutenant's actions tonight. There'll be consequences. Court-martial, probably. We'll testify on his behalf, I said immediately. All of us will, May added. Reynolds nodded. That might help, but the senator has friends, powerful ones. This isn't over. As if to emphasize his point, a cavalry unit rode in 50 men, armed and looking official. Their commander, a full colonel, surveyed the scene with cold eyes. I'm looking for Senator Aldrich, he announced. In the doctor's clinic, Reynolds replied carefully. Under arrest for human trafficking. Under whose authority? Mine. Judge Harrison stepped forward. Federal judge appointed by President Arthur himself. The colonel dismounted. I have orders to escort the senator back to Washington. Then you'll be escorting a prisoner, Harrison said firmly. The evidence is overwhelming. Evidence can be interpreted many ways. Not this evidence, Tala said, producing a leather portfolio. Where had she been hiding that? Letters. In the senator's own hand, discussing prices, preferences. Some of his clients have very specific tastes, apparently. The colonel's face went white as he read. These weren't just business documents, they were confessions to crimes that would destroy half of Washington's elite if made public. Where did you get these? From his tent while everyone was busy shooting, she said simply. Your grandfather taught me more than chess, Rafe. He also taught me that the greatest victories are won without drawing a blade. The colonel looked around at the freed women, the assembled townspeople, the soldiers who'd already chosen their side. The senator will remain under arrest. We'll transport him to Washington for trial. A fair trial, May asked skeptically. The fairest money can buy, the colonel said with a bitter smile. But these documents, they change things. Too many important people are implicated. They'll sacrifice him to save themselves. As dawn broke, properly painting the desert in shades of gold and pink, the full scale of what we'd accomplished became clear. The trafficking ring was broken, at least this branch of it. The freed women had hope. The town had found its courage. But Tala was right. This was just the beginning. You're leaving, aren't you? I asked her as she stood watching her sisters prepare for their journey to Carlisle. There are more camps, more collectors. Then we'd better get started finding them. She turned to me. We partners, remember, besides, someone needs to watch your back while you're stealing incriminating documents. And someone needs to keep you from charging into gunfights, she countered. Marcus approached, having overheard. The spirits were right about you, Callahan. You have the heart of a warrior, just a man paying a debt. No, he said firmly. A man creating a new path. My brother saw it. Now I see it too. He produced something from his bag, a leather band, with the spiral bird design worked into it. Wear this. It marks you as family. Any Apache who sees it will know you're under our protection. I took it reverently, understanding the honor being offered. I'll try to be worthy of it. You already are, Tala said quietly. As I tied the band around my wrist, I thought about circles and spirals, about debts and choices, about the strange paths that lead us to our purposes. 20 years ago, a chief saved a boy. Today, that boy, now a man, stood with the chief's granddaughter planning a war against an evil that wore respectability like armor. The senator mentioned others, I said. Dozens, he said. Then we have work to do, Tala replied. Doc Lilly joined us looking exhausted but satisfied. The wounded will recover, even the senator, unfortunately. Good, Tala said. He needs to live to testify. Will he? He will if he wants to avoid Apache justice, finding him in whatever federal prison they put him in, Marcus said calmly. It wasn't a threat, just a statement of fact. Tom approached with a telegram. Rafe, this just came from Denver. I read it, my blood chilling. 3 more auction sites, all operating openly. The sellers claim they have federal permits. Then we'd better get federal authority to stop them. May said, her badge glinting in the morning sun. Or we just stop them anyway, Tala suggested. That's the Apache way, Marcus agreed. Sometimes the law needs to catch up to justice. Judge Harrison overheard and sighed deeply. I cannot officially condone extra-legal action. He paused meaningfully. However, I'll be traveling the circuit for the next 2 months. What happens outside my immediate jurisdiction is justice finding its own level, I finished. The freed women were gathering now, some heading home, others to refuges in larger cities. Each one stopped to thank us, though we'd only done what was right. Rosa approached with baby hope. She'll grow up free because of what you did, she told Tala and me. That's a gift beyond measure. She'll grow up free because you fought for it, Tala corrected. We just helped clear the path. As the various groups prepared to depart, Morrison approached. His uniform was dusty and blood-stained, but he stood straighter than when he'd arrived. I've been relieved of command pending investigation, he said, but I wanted to thank you. You showed me the difference between following orders and following conscience. What will you do? I asked. There's talk of forming a special unit to investigate these trafficking rings. If I avoid court-martial, I might lead it. If you need scouts who know the territory, I offered. I'll know where to find you, he finished with a slight smile. The sun was fully up now, burning off the morning chill. The town was transforming, people walking taller, speaking louder. Fear had lost its grip, replaced by something more powerful: community. Ready to ride? Tala asked me. Always. Where to first? Denver. If we're going to war against slavers, we need intelligence, and I know someone there who might help. Another relative, my grandmother's cousin. She runs a boarding house that's actually a station on what some call an underground railroad for escaped captives. Dangerous business. The best kind, she said with that rare smile. We prepared our horses, packed supplies, checked weapons. Tom would manage the ranch. May would handle the legal battles. Marcus would coordinate with the Apache bands. Everyone had a role in this growing resistance. As we mounted up, Suri and Misa came to say goodbye. The sisters clung to Tala, tears flowing freely. Learn everything, Tala told them, then come back and teach others. Education is a weapon they can't take away. Will you visit? Misa asked. When I can, but you'll be busy becoming warriors of a different kind. They nodded, understanding. This was war just fought with different weapons. As we rode out, I looked back at the town one last time. Smoke still rose from chimneys. People went about their business. Life continued. But underneath the normal facade, something had fundamentally changed. The spiral had widened, encompassing more than just two people bound by an old debt. Regrets? Tala asked, noting my backward glance. None. You. Only that it took so long to begin. The trail stretched ahead, winding toward mountains that held more camps, more captives, more fights, but also more allies, more hope, more chances to balance the scales. Your grandfather, I said as we picked up the pace, would be proud. He would say the work has only started. Then we'd better get to it. We rode toward Denver, toward danger, toward a destiny neither of us fully understood yet. But the spiral bird on my wrist and hers seemed to catch fire in the morning light. Wings spread wide enough to shelter all who needed protection. Behind us, the town grew smaller, but the cause grew larger. Every freed woman was a victory. Every slaver stopped was justice served. Every ally gained was the spiral widening. The debt to Chief Naichi would never be fully paid, but in trying to pay it, we were creating something larger than debt or gratitude. We were forging a new kind of family, bound not by blood but by purpose, not by law but by justice, not by paper but by truth. The horses' hooves drummed against the hard earth, a rhythm like war drums or heartbeats or both. Ahead lay Denver and danger and decisions that would echo through history. But that was ahead. Right now there was just the trail, the companionship, and the certain knowledge that every mile forward was a mile closer to freedom for someone who'd given up hope of ever seeing it. The dust from Denver hung in the air like smoke from a distant fire, and we'd been riding for 3 days when Tala suddenly pulled up short. Her hand went to her rifle before I even heard what had spooked her horses coming fast from behind. How many? I asked, already scanning for cover. 6, maybe 7. She pointed to a cluster of rocks ahead. There. We pushed the horses hard, making the rocks just as the riders crested the hill behind us. But instead of taking cover, Tala relaxed. It's May. Sure enough, Deputy May Foster rode up with 5 others, all wearing badges that caught the afternoon sun. She looked exhausted, her clothes dusty from hard riding. Thank God we caught you, she gasped, dismounting quickly. Everything's gone to hell. What happened? Tala demanded. Judge Harrison's dead, shot 2 nights ago. They're saying it was Apache raiders. May's eyes met Tala's. They're issuing warrants for you, Marcus, anyone involved in the Devil's Hollow raid. My blood went cold. Who's they? New territorial governor, appointed yesterday by emergency decree, James Whitmore. Tala's face darkened. Whitmore owns half the mining operations in Colorado. He's one of the buyers in the senator's letters. Which is why he wants you silenced, May continued. There's more. The senator escaped during transfer. The colonel's convoy was ambushed. Professional job. How many dead? I asked. None. That's the strange part. They disabled the wagons, freed the senator, left everyone else tied up but breathing. He's got professional help, Tala said quietly. Military trained, probably. One of May's deputies, a young man named Collins, spoke up. There's already a posse forming in Denver. 50 men, all deputized under the new governor's authority. They're calling it the Restoration Force. Restoration of what? I spat. Order, May said bitterly. Their kind of order. Tala was already thinking ahead, that chess player mind working. The boarding house, my grandmother's cousin, they'll go after her. We need to warn her, I said. Too late for that, Collins said. They raided it this morning, arrested everyone inside. Tala's hands clenched on her reins, knuckles white. How many? 15 women, 6 children. They're holding them at the Denver stockade pending trial. Trial for what? conspiracy, sedition. They're painting this as an Apache uprising supported by white traitors. I felt the spiral bird band on my wrist like a burning brand. Then we need to get them out. That's suicide, May protested. The stockade's a fortress, 30 guards, military-grade weapons. Everything's suicide lately, I echoed my earlier words. Doesn't mean we stop moving forward. Tala turned her horse. We need Marcus and his warriors. Already sent riders, May said. But Rafe, there's something else. Your ranch. My stomach dropped. Tom, he's fine, but Whitmore's seized it under eminent domain, says it's needed for territorial security. The anger that rose in me was cold and sharp as winter wind. He can, and he did. New laws, emergency powers. Anyone who helped at Devil's Hollow is now considered an enemy of the territory. Then we'd better become the kind of enemies they'll regret making, Tala said. We rode hard for the meeting point. May had arranged an abandoned mining camp in the foothills. Marcus was already there with 20 warriors plus another surprise Captain Reynolds out of uniform but armed. Officially I'm on leave, he said. Unofficially I'm tired of watching good people get crushed by bad laws. Morrison, I asked. Court-martial starts next week, unless we can prove the senator's guilt first. The letters Tala took disappeared from evidence. Whitmore's people are thorough. Tala pulled out her shirt tail, revealing a hidden pocket. Not that thorough. She produced copies of several documents. Never trust just one hiding place. Reynolds examined them. These could work, but we need the originals for court. Then we'd better find the senator, I said. I might know where he is, a new voice said. We all spun, weapons drawn, to find Old Man Ortiz, stepping from the shadows with someone I didn't recognize. A well-dressed black woman in her 40s. This is Mrs. Catherine Wells, Ortiz said. She runs the Underground Railroad from Denver to Canada. Ran, she corrected bitterly, until this morning. Tala studied her carefully. You're the one who's been helping Apache women escape north. Among others, your grandmother's cousin spoke highly of you. Catherine's expression softened slightly. She's alive, by the way, hurt, but alive. Where are they holding her? Same place they're keeping the senator, actually. Private compound north of Denver. Whitmore's personal fortress. That doesn't make sense, May said. Why keep prisoners and the senator together? Because the senator's not exactly a prisoner, Catherine explained. He's Whitmore's guest while they figure out how to spin this. Make him the victim, you the villains. How do you know all this? Reynolds asked suspiciously. Catherine smiled coldly. Because I used to be Whitmore's property. Bought my freedom 5 years ago, but I still have friends in his household. Scared friends who want this to end. Can your friends get us in? Tala asked. Maybe. There's a delivery tomorrow. Food and supplies for some kind of gathering. What gathering? Whitmore's bringing in buyers from San Francisco and St. Louis, planning to restart the auctions, but legally this time, calling them labor contracts. The silence that followed was heavy with rage. Finally, Tom spoke. So we hit them during the gathering. Maximum chaos. Maximum witnesses, Tala corrected. If we do this right, we expose them all. That's a lot of ifs, May pointed out. Then we'd better start turning them into whens, I said. We spent the night planning. Catherine's inside knowledge was invaluable. Guard rotations, building layouts, weak points. The compound was fortified, but not impregnable, especially if we had help from inside. My friends can drug the guards coffee, Catherine offered Shine. Not enough to knock them out, just make them slow. I can get Morrison's men to create a distraction in town, Reynolds added. Draw away some of Whitmore's force. And we'll hit from 3 directions, Marcus said, sketching in the dirt. Warriors from the north, your people from the south, and a small group through Catherine's delivery wagon. I'll take the wagon team, Tala volunteered immediately. Not alone, I said. Never alone, she agreed, looking at me. Partners. As dawn approached, everyone knew their role. It was ambitious, probably foolish, certainly dangerous. But the alternative was letting Whitmore rebuild the slave trade with legal protection. One more thing, Catherine said. There's a safe in Whitmore's office. That's where he keeps the real documents. Not just trafficking records, bribes, blackmail material enough to bring down half the territorial government. Then that's our secondary target, Tala decided. Secondary, May asked. Primary is freeing the captives. Always. We moved out before full dawn, taking different routes to avoid suspicion. Tala and I joined Catherine in her delivery wagon hidden under flour sacks and supply crates. The ride was bumpy and tense, every checkpoint a potential disaster. Papers, a guard demanded as we approached the compound. Catherine smiled sweetly. Same as always, Henry. Kitchen supplies for the big gathering. Henry peered into the wagon, his hand resting on his pistol. My finger found my own trigger ready if this went bad. But he just nodded and waved us through. The compound was bigger than I'd expected, a main house like a plantation manor, several outbuildings, and a converted barn that had to be where they were keeping prisoners. Guards everywhere, but Catherine was right. Some were already looking sluggish from the drugged coffee. Kitchen entrance, Catherine whispered. My friend Sarah will meet us. Sarah turned out to be a young Apache woman, one who'd escaped north years ago, but stayed to help others. Her hands shook as she let us in, but her voice was steady. They're in the barn. 15 women, 6 children, and your grandmother's cousin. She's hurt bad. Guards. 4 inside, 6 outside, but there's a problem. Sarah's face paled. The senator's there too. He's selecting. Tala's face went stone cold. Selecting for the buyers. They wanted to see the merchandise first. I had to physically hold Tala back from charging out right then. Wait, we stick to the plan. Plan's changed, she hissed. He doesn't get to do this again. Agreed, but smart, not angry. She took a breath, centered herself. You're right, smart. Then she smiled, and it was terrifying. I have an idea. Her idea involved Sarah fetching servants' clothes and a tea service. If he's selecting, he'll want refreshments. Proper service. Tala, no. Yes. She was already changing hiding weapons under the servant's dress. You create the distraction. I'll get close to the senator. Before I could protest further, she was gone, following Sarah toward the barn. I cursed and moved to position, watching through a window as she entered the barn carrying a tea tray. The scene inside made my blood boil. Women and children huddled against one wall while the senator walked among them like he was shopping for horses. Whitmore stood nearby with 2 other well-dressed men, the buyers presumably. Tala moved with practiced subservience, invisible to men who saw servants as furniture. She served tea to Whitmore first, then the buyers, then approached the senator. That's when Marcus's warriors struck the north wall. The attack was sudden and fierce fire arrows, war cries, everything calculated to create maximum panic. Guards ran toward the threat, leaving the barn less defended. I kicked in the side door as planned, Tom and Reynolds behind me. Nobody move! Reynolds shouted, badge visible despite being officially on leave. The buyers froze. Whitmore went for his gun, but Tom was faster, disarming him with a blow that probably broke his wrist. But the senator had grabbed Tala knife to her throat. Back off. Everyone back off or she dies. Go ahead, Tala said calmly. Kill another Apache woman. Show everyone what you really are. Shut up. Is this your business model, Senator? She continued, voice carrying. Hold knives to women's throats. Very profitable, I'm sure. One of the buyers stepped back, face pale. Aldrich, what is this? It's nothing, just savages. Tala moved. The servant's mask dropped as she twisted the knife suddenly in her hand instead of his. The senator screamed as blood ran from his sliced palm. That's for my grandmother's cousin, she said. Then her knee came up sharply. That's for every woman you've sold." Finally, her elbow connected with his temple, dropping him, and that's because I wanted to. The barn erupted in chaos. The captive women surged forward, some attacking guards, others running for exits. I fought my way to Tala, covering her as she cut bonds and directed escapes. The office. Catherine appeared, dress torn but eyes fierce. Now, while they're distracted, Tala and I ran for the main house. 2 guards tried to stop us, but they were sluggish, drugged, easy to disable. The office door was locked, but Tala had kept the senator's keys. The safe stood open. Whitmore must have been retrieving documents for the buyers. Inside were ledgers, contracts, and letters that would damn 100 powerful men. "We can't carry all this," I said. "Don't need to." Tala produced a camera from her bag. Where did she keep finding these things? Catherine's idea. Document everything. As she photographed, I heard horses approaching. Many horses. Company coming. Almost done. Click, click, click. There. We grabbed what originals we could and ran. The compound was pure chaos. Now warriors fighting guards, freed women, fleeing buyers trying to escape. Morrison appeared with a squad of soldiers, official or not. "Federal marshals are 10 minutes out," he yelled. "Real ones this time." May had done it, gotten word to legitimate authorities. But 10 minutes was a lifetime in a fight like this. Whitmore appeared with reinforcements, trying to rally his men. Kill them all. No witnesses. That's when the unexpected happened. The buyers, the wealthy men who'd come to purchase humans, turned on Whitmore. "Are you insane?" one shouted. "Federal marshals, you said this was legal." "It is legal. Legal doesn't involve killing witnesses," another said, backing toward his carriage. "I'm out." The defection of the money men broke Whitmore's nerve. He ran for his horse, leaving his guards confused and leaderless. Some surrendered, others fled. A few tried to fight on, but were quickly overwhelmed. "The prisoners," Tala reminded everyone, "make sure they're all out." We did a sweep, finding 2 children hidden in a corner, terrified. Tom carried them out while their mother wept with relief. The grandmother's cousin was on a stretcher, hurt but smiling as Tala gripped her hand. "Little bird," the old woman whispered, bemarred. "Your grandfather would be proud." "Rest now, grandmother. We'll get you help." The federal marshals arrived as predicted, taking custody of the Senator Whitmore and the buyers. The evidence we'd gathered would ensure convictions, but more importantly, it would expose the entire network. "This is big," Morrison told us as medics tended wounds. "Bigger than we thought. There are names here going all the way to Washington." "Good," Tala said. "Let them all burn." As the dust settled and statements were taken, I found myself standing with Tala outside the ruined compound. Smoke rose from the barn. Someone had set it ablaze, destroying the place where so many had suffered. "We did it," I said. "We did something," she corrected. "But look." She pointed to the horizon where dust clouds suggested riders fleeing. "How many got away? How many will start again somewhere else? Then we'll stop them again." She looked at me, something shifting in her expression. "You really mean that? This isn't about the debt anymore." "No," I agreed. "It stopped being about debt when I saw the truth of what they were doing. This is about what's right. Even though you've lost your ranch, your old life. That life was built on ignoring suffering. This one's built on ending it." She reached out, touched the spiral bird band on my wrist. The circle widens until it encompasses everyone who needs protection. May approached with Judge Harrison's replacement, a woman judge from California, one of the first in the territory. "Judge Patricia Morgan," May introduced. "She wants to hear everything." "From the beginning?" Tala asked. "From wherever you think the story starts," Judge Morgan replied. Tala and I exchanged glances. Where did it start? With her grandfather saving me with the auction with the first woman sold. It starts, Tala said finally, with the belief that one person can own another. Everything else is just consequences. Judge Morgan nodded slowly. Then let's make sure the consequences are remembered. As we gave our testimonies, I noticed something. The freed women weren't leaving. They were organizing, planning, talking about what came next. Rosa was there with baby Hope, teaching others the Apache fire recipe. Catherine Wells was drawing maps of other trafficking routes. Even the buyer's servants, seeing which way the wind was blowing, were offering information. "Look at that," Tom said, joining me. "You've started something." "We've started something," I corrected. "A revolution, a reckoning." The senator in chains and headed for federal prison passed by us. He looked older, smaller, defeated, but his eyes still held venom. "This isn't over," he said. "No," Tala agreed, "but you are." As they loaded him into the prison wagon, Morrison approached. "My court-martial's been canceled. Apparently my actions are being reviewed as heroic initiative instead of insubordination." "Funny how success changes the narrative," Reynolds said dryly. "They want me to head a new task force, specifically targeting human trafficking." Morrison looked at us. "I could use experienced scouts, officially this time." "We'll think about it," I said, but Tala was already shaking her head. "Officials have to follow rules. Sometimes justice needs to move faster than law." "Then we work both sides," May suggested. "Some officials, some not." "A spiral," Tala mused. "Official force moving openly, underground resistance moving secretly, both working toward the center." "The center being?" Judge Morgan asked. "Freedom, real freedom, not just papers saying you're free, but the reality of it." As the sun set over the Colorado mountains, painting everything in shades of gold and red, the compound continued to burn. The smoke rose straight up in the still air, a pillar visible for miles, a sign that things had changed, a warning that justice had arrived. "What now?" Reynolds asked. "Now we expand," Tala said. "Every name in those documents, every connection, every route. We map it all, then we destroy it all." "That could take years," someone pointed out. "Then we'd better get started," I said. Catherine Wells approached with a ledger. "I've been keeping records for 5 years. Every woman who passed through our station, where they came from, who took them, combined with what you found." "We have a complete picture," Tala finished. "Or close enough." "There's more," Catherine said. "The women want to fight, not just the Apache, all of them. Mexican, Black, Chinese, even some white women who've seen too much. They want training." "An army of the freed," Marcus said, having appeared silently as always. "My warriors will train any who wish to learn." "Mine too," Morrison added, "officially or otherwise." I looked around at the unlikely alliance we'd forged. Apache warriors, federal soldiers, local lawmen, freed slaves, ranchers, doctors, and whoever else wanted to stand against the darkness. Not an army in any traditional sense, but something more powerful, a movement. "The spiral widens," I said to Tala. "Yes," she agreed, "and it will keep widening until there's no place left for slavers to hide." As we prepared to leave the burning compound to spread out and begin the real work of dismantling the network, Tala's grandmother's cousin called out from her stretcher, "Little bird." The vision. Tala went to her quickly. The old woman gripped her hand with surprising strength. I saw it in the smoke, a great bird spiral-winged covering the sky, and beneath its wings all peoples walking free. "Your grandfather's debt has become a gift to the world." "Rest, grandmother." "No, listen, the man beside you in the vision," her eyes found me. "The debt is paid, boy. What comes next is not obligation, but choice. Choose well." She closed her eyes, exhausted but smiling. Tala looked at me, and for the first time since I'd known her, she seemed uncertain. "Choice," she repeated softly. "I choose to continue," I said without hesitation. "Not for debt, not for obligation, but because it's right. Because I choose to stand with you. Even knowing what's coming, the violence, the danger, the years it will take, especially knowing that, partners, She smiled then fully and freely. Partners. As we rode away from the burning compound, our unlikely army spreading in all directions to begin the great work, I thought about Chief Nietzsche and his gift of water to a burning boy. He couldn't have known it would lead to this, or maybe he did. Maybe he saw in that moment not just a boy who needed saving, but a future where that saved boy would help save others. The spiral bird on my wrist caught the last light of day, and for a moment I swear I felt it move, wings spreading wider and encompassing more, always more, until someday, somehow it would cover everyone who needed shelter from the storm of human cruelty. Behind us, Whitmore's fortress continued to burn. Ahead, the road stretched toward 100 battles we'd have to fight. But for now, in this moment, we'd won something precious, not just freedom for those captives, but proof that ordinary people doing extraordinary things could change the world. The debt was paid. What came next was something else entirely. Something chosen, something powerful, something that would echo through history as the day the spiral bird spread its wings and said, "No more." The courthouse in Red Mesa stood like a monument to justice, delayed its fresh paint unable to hide the years of corruption that had seeped into its walls. 6 months had passed since Whitmore's compound burned, 6 months of hunting down every name in those documents, and now it all came down to this, the trial that would either destroy the trafficking network forever or let it crawl back into the shadows to rebuild. Tala stood beside me on the courthouse steps, watching as wagons brought witnesses from across 3 territories. Rosa was there with Hope, now walking on chubby legs. Catherine Wells had arrived with 20 women willing to testify. Even Lieutenant Morrison, now Captain Morrison, had brought his entire unit as security. "They're all here," May said, joining us. She wore a federal marshal's badge, now promoted after the Whitmore raid. "Every buyer, every middleman we could catch." "And those we couldn't?" Tala asked. "Still out there, but after today they'll think twice." The crowd grew larger as the morning progressed. Apache, Mexican, Black, Chinese, white, all united by shared pain and shared determination. Some carried signs, others carried scars, all carried hope that today would be different. Judge Patricia Morgan emerged, her presence commanding immediate respect. "We're ready. The defendants are being brought in now." Through the courthouse windows, we could see them, 43 men in chains, including Senator Aldrich and Whitmore. They still wore expensive clothes, still held their heads high, still believed their money and connections would save them. "Look at them," Tom muttered, acting like they're the victims. "Let them," Tala said coldly. "Pride comes before the fall." As we entered the courthouse, a commotion erupted outside. Riders approaching fast, too fast for comfort. Morrison's men moved to intercept, but the lead rider held up a paper. "Federal injunction," he shouted. "This trial is suspended pending congressional review." My heart sank. They'd found a way to stop us through legal channels, but Judge Morgan simply took the paper, read it, and smiled. "This injunction is dated yesterday. The trial started at sunrise, making this void." She tore it in half. "Nice try, gentlemen. Proceed." The riders looked stunned. One reached for his weapon but found himself staring down the barrels of 50 rifles held by Morrison's men, Marcus's warriors, and half the town. "I wouldn't," Morrison advised calmly. They retreated, but one called back, "This isn't over. You're making powerful enemies." "We already had powerful enemies," Tala replied. "Now we're making them afraid." Inside, the courtroom was packed beyond capacity. The defendants sat in a specially built dock, their lawyers shuffling papers nervously. The lead prosecutor, brought in from Washington specifically for this case, stood ready with boxes of evidence. "Your Honor," Whitmore's lawyer began immediately, "we move for dismissal. This court lacks jurisdiction. Motion denied. I have a presidential order giving me full authority." Judge Morgan produced the document. "Signed 3 days ago. Proceed, counselor." The first witness was Rosa. She took the stand holding Hope, who played with a small wooden bird Tala had carved for her. Rosa's testimony was devastating: names, dates, prices, the death of her daughter Maria. Several jury members wept openly. "That's a lie," Whitmore shouted. "She's been coached." "Then explain this," the prosecutor said, producing a ledger. "Your own handwriting. Maria Gonzalez, aged 16, sold to Denver House $300. Whitmore went pale. His lawyer whispered frantically in his ear. One by one the women testified. Each story was worse than the last. Catherine Wells produced her 5 years of records, matching perfectly with the captured documents. The buyers who'd been at the compound tried to claim ignorance, but Tala's photographs destroyed that defense. "I recognize that man," one witness said, pointing at a well-dressed merchant. "He chose my sister, said he liked them young and scared." The merchant jumped up. "This is slander, I demand." "Sit down, Mr. Garrett," Judge Morgan ordered. "You'll have your chance to respond." But when his chance came, Garrett had nothing. None of them did. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable, recorded in their own hands. Then came the unexpected witness, Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore, the defendant's own wife. "Eleanor, no," Whitmore cried out. She took the stand with quiet dignity. "I've been silent too long. I knew what my husband was doing. I was too afraid to speak. But seeing these brave women testify, I can't be silent anymore." She produced a diary, years of entries, documenting her husband's crimes conversations. She'd overheard deals made in their own home. The courtroom exploded in chaos. "You traitorous!" Whitmore lunged toward his wife, but was restrained. "The only traitor here is you," she replied calmly. "You betrayed every principle of humanity." The defense's case crumbled within hours. Their main argument that the women were criminals being legally detained fell apart when Captain Morrison presented military records showing most had been kidnapped from peaceful villages. "Your Honor," Senator Aldrich's lawyer made one last desperate play. "My client is a United States Senator. He has immunity." Had Judge Morgan corrected. "The Senate revoked his immunity yesterday. Unanimous vote." The senator sagged in his chair. He knew it was over. As the prosecution rested, something unexpected happened. Marcus stood up in the gallery. "Your Honor, may I speak? This is highly irregular." "Please," Judge Morgan said. "I'll allow it." Marcus moved forward with the dignity of his chieftainship. 23 years ago, my brother saved a white boy from fire. Some said he was foolish, saving an enemy. But my brother saw something else. He saw a future where that boy would grow to save others. Today, that future has arrived. He looked directly at the defendants. "You thought you owned people, but people cannot be owned. They can be held, hurt, even killed, but never owned. The human spirit belongs only to itself." "Pretty words from a savage," Whitmore muttered. "This savage," Marcus replied calmly, "is free. You, despite your wealth and power, are the one in chains. Which of us is truly civilized?" The jury deliberated for less than an hour, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted in celebrations and tears. Women who'd been property months ago now watched their tormentors become prisoners. "Sentencing will be tomorrow," Judge Morgan announced, "but I can tell you now it will be severe." As the defendants were led away, Senator Aldrich passed close to Tala and me. "You've destroyed everything," he hissed. "Centuries of tradition, natural order." "Good," Tala said simply, but Whitmore had one more card to play. As they reached the door, he shouted, "Fire! The courthouse is on fire!" Smoke began pouring in from the back rooms. People panicked, rushing for exits. In the chaos, several defendants broke free, including Whitmore himself. He ran not for the exit, but toward the judge's chambers. "The evidence!" Catherine shouted. "He's going for the evidence!" Tala and I fought through the crowd following Whitmore. We found him in the chambers pouring lamp oil on the boxes of documents. "Without these, you have nothing," he laughed, raising a match. Tala's knife flew, pinning his hand to the wall. He screamed, dropping the match into a metal waste bin where it died harmlessly. "You were saying?" she asked. I secured Whitmore while Tala checked the documents. The smoke was getting thicker, but it wasn't coming from here. We dragged Whitmore out to find the real fire was in the basement set by his accomplices as a distraction. The building was evacuated successfully, the fire contained by the town's bucket brigade. But in the chaos, 3 defendants had escaped, including Garrett, the merchant. "Let them run," Judge Morgan said, coughing from smoke. "They'll be fugitives for life, never able to show their faces in civilized society again." The next morning, despite the damage, courthouse sentencing proceeded on the front steps with the whole town as witness. Judge Morgan stood elevated on a makeshift platform, the morning sun creating a natural spotlight. "James Whitmore, Samuel Aldrich, and conspirators," she began, her voice carrying across the square. "You have been found guilty of the most heinous crimes, treating human beings as property-destroying families, causing immeasurable suffering for profit." She paused, letting the weight of the words settle. "I sentence you to life imprisonment with hard labor. You who made others work in chains will now know that burden yourselves. Furthermore, all your assets are forfeit to be distributed among your victims as compensation." Whitmore collapsed. The senator tried to maintain dignity but failed. Others wept or raged or simply stared in shock. "There is one alternative," Judge Morgan continued. "Any defendant who provides full information about the remaining network, including the identity of all buyers and sellers still free, will have their sentence reduced to 20 years. The breaking began immediately. Garrett's lawyer, trying to save himself, produced a hidden ledger with hundreds of names. Another defendant offered routes and safe houses. Within minutes, they were turning on each other, each trying to buy mercy with information. Tala watched with cold satisfaction. The spiral collapses inward. They destroy themselves. That evening, as the convicted were loaded onto prison wagons, the town held a celebration, not of vengeance, but of justice. Music played, children danced, and for the first time in years, people felt truly free. I found Tala standing apart, watching her sisters arrive from Carlisle. Suri and Misa had grown educated and confident, carrying themselves like the warriors they'd become. "You did it," Suri said, embracing Tala. "You really did it." "We did it," Tala corrected, gesturing to everyone present. "All of us." Judge Morgan approached with Captain Morrison and May. "There's something you should know. The president wants to meet you, both of you. He's creating a new federal department to combat trafficking nationwide. He wants you to lead it." I looked at Tala, saw her considering. "Together," she asked. "Partners," Morrison confirmed. "Official backing, real resources, the authority to pursue traffickers anywhere in the country." "And internationally," Judge Morgan added. "This network extends to Mexico, Canada, even overseas. We need people who understand both the legal and extra-legal approaches." Tala turned to me. "What do you think?" I thought about the ranch I'd lost, the simple life I'd once lived. Then I looked at the freed women celebrating at hope, toddling between them at the future we'd helped create. "I think Chief Naichi's debt has grown into something neither of us expected," I said. "But something necessary. Then we accept," Tala decided. "On one condition, we choose our own team." "Done," Judge Morgan smiled. "Who did you have in mind?" "Everyone." Tala gestured to the crowd. "May for legal expertise, Morrison for military support, Marcus for intelligence networks, Catherine for underground connections, Tom for logistics, even Rosa, she's become quite the organizer." "An unusual department," Morrison mused. "For an unusual war," I added. As the sun set over Red Mesa, painting the sky in those familiar shades of gold and red, I stood with Tala watching the prison wagons disappear into the distance. The spiral bird tattoo on her shoulder was visible where her shirt had shifted, and my matching band caught the light. "Your grandfather," I began, "would say the work is just beginning," she finished. There are still camps out there, still women in chains, still men who think they can own others. Then we'd better get to work. She smiled, that rare, full smile that transformed her face. Yes, but first. She took my hand, surprising me. Thank you. For what? For seeing me as a person, not a symbol. For being a true partner. For choosing this path when you could have walked away. I couldn't have walked away, I said honestly. Not after seeing the truth. Not after knowing you. Something shifted between us then. Something that had been building for months but never acknowledged. She stepped closer and I could smell the sage and gunpowder that always seemed to cling to her. Rafe, she said quietly, when this started it was about debt. Then it became about justice. But now it's about something else. Something I didn't expect. Before I could ask what, she kissed me. Not passionate, but purposeful. A promise and a question and an answer all at once. When she pulled back, I saw tears in her eyes, the first I'd ever seen there. My grandmother's vision, she whispered. She saw this, saw us, said the spiral bird would find its match in an unlikely place. I touched the band on my wrist, understanding finally why it had always felt warm, alive. The debt is paid, but the choice remains. And what do you choose? You, I said simply. The work, the fight, the future, all of it as long as it's with you. The celebration continued around us, but we stood in our own bubble of possibility. Tomorrow we'd leave for Washington. Tomorrow we'd begin hunting the remaining traffickers. Tomorrow the real work would begin. But tonight we stood together as the spiral completed its first revolution, from a burning wagon to a burning compound, from a saved boy to a saving man, from debt to choice, from strangers to partners to something more. Look, Tala pointed to the sky where an eagle circled its wings, catching the last light. The spiral bird watching over its work. Our work, I corrected. Yes, she agreed, leaning against me slightly. Our work. Rosa approached with hope, now walking confidently. The child toddled up to us, offering a wooden toy, a tiny carved bird that looked remarkably like the spiral bird tattoo. Who made this? Tala asked, kneeling to the child's level. She did, Rosa said proudly. Carved it herself with the knife you gave her, 3 years old and already an artist. Hope babbled something in a mix of Spanish, Apache, and English, the language of the new frontier where boundaries meant less than humanity. The next generation, I said, watching the child play, they'll grow up in a world where ownership of humans is unthinkable. Because we made it unthinkable, Tala added. She stood, taking my hand again. Come, Marcus wants to perform a ceremony, make our partnership official in the eyes of the Apache. And after we go to Washington, we take this fight to the halls of power. We make sure this never happens again. As we walked toward where Marcus waited with his ceremonial items, I thought about the strange path that had led here. A boy saved from fire growing into a man who saved others from chains. A woman marked by tragedy becoming a warrior for justice. Two spirits spiraling around each other until they merged into something stronger. The ceremony was simple but profound. Marcus bound our wrists together with a leather cord marked with the spiral bird design, speaking words in Apache that Tala translated. Two paths become one. Two strengths combine. The spiral completes and begins anew. When it was done, the gathering cheered. Even the federal officials applauded, understanding they were witnessing something larger than just a partnership. They were seeing the birth of a new kind of justice, one that honored both law and spirit. That night, as the town finally quieted and the stars emerged in all their glory, Tala and I stood on the courthouse steps where justice had been served. No regrets, she asked. None. You? Only that it took so long to begin. She paused, then added softly, My grandfather would have liked you. I think I would have liked him too. He would have said you were exactly where the spirits intended you to be. And he would have been right. A shooting star streaked across the sky, and I remembered my mother's words about making wishes, but I didn't need to wish for anything. Everything I needed was right here: purpose, partnership, and the promise of tomorrow's fights. The spiral bird had brought us full circle, from debt to choice, from obligation to love, from a burning past to a bright future. And tomorrow we would spread those spiral wings wider still, until every person in chains felt their touch and knew that freedom was coming. The debt was paid. The choice was made. The work continued. And somewhere in the spiritual realm, Chief Naichi smiled, knowing his greatest gift had not been saving a boy's life, but setting in motion a spiral that would save thousands. The story that began with "Stop, I'll buy her" had become something neither of us could have imagined: a love story, a war story, a justice story, all woven together like the spirals in that mystical bird's wings. And it was far from over, but for tonight it was enough. We'd won this battle. We'd found each other. We'd proven that love and justice could triumph over greed and cruelty. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tonight brought peace. And in that peace, the spiral bird spread its wings one last time, encompassing everyone who'd fought, everyone who'd suffered, everyone who'd hoped, drawing them all into its eternal, ever-widening circle of protection and promise. The end.